Check. One, two, three. Check, check. You're good. Well, we've had a lot of work by Coach Thompson and Coach Moulton, but I think we're on the air. So right now we are in the second set of the JV game. Westside won the first set, and they are dominating the second set. Of course, JV goes just 2 out of 3. Westside leads this one 22-3. I've got some folks all over the place asking me, "Where are you?" Some of them even in Spanish, some of them as far as Grand Island, Nebraska, and Lima, Peru. We got people all over the place, and I think, wow, that was a lot of work, but there we are. We are on the air, 22-4, second set, junior varsity. Varsity will follow this one. As Westside dominating both sets in the first set, Soda actually had a 4-point lead. And then the Pirates came back and won it 25-15. On the serve is Royer, and that's bumped up by Soda. Hopkins over the net. Good job by Whitworth. That's bumped up by Westside, punched over as Whitworth again with the bump. Whitworth over the net. Nice shot. 23-5. And this would be match set for the Pirates. Soda in red with black numbers, black shorts, and the Pirates are in maroon with silver numbers or gray numbers and black shorts. They almost look the same if you're kind of looking well through the camera. 24-5. Soda's picked up a couple of points. West Side on the serve. It'll be Gunnell. A lot of typical Dayton names on this West Side team. Ball is punched up by Hopkins. That goes over by Osborne. Nice set at the net. And wow, what a nice shot by Angela Mumford. And that's it, 25-5. And the Pirates will win the JV match. Let me make some notes here. And we will get to varsity on the way. So the JV Westside wins 2-0. And they are celebrating right down below us here. And Soda, well, Soda only had 6 kids suited for that junior varsity match. We'll have the varsity coming right up. A lot of work, but we are streaming now. We appreciate patience. I've got some actually got some people in Spanish that listen. And paciencia. Here we are. Couple of notes. Senior night for the Lady Cards will be October 15th. That'll be the final varsity game. And this really sounds fun. There'll be an all-star match over in Pocatello at Pokey High, and that will be November 3rd at 7:30. We don't have dates, times, places on district tournament yet. And then this weekend, we actually had a tournament scheduled in Malad, and that has been canceled. So put 20 minutes on the board, and then we'll have the varsity. They will warm up. I will try to run the camera. There's the soda kids working without a net. But I really appreciate athletic director Thompson and principal Moulton for getting us going here. There's the soda kids, all in white, and they will warm up to my left or on the north side. See Cedar Johnson below us. Football this Friday, we will be at Westside. Westside, they're Westside. Last 5 years, I think they've won 3 state championships in football. They beat Declo last year, and Westside just had a football game with Declo, and they beat the Hornets again. And so football, we'll travel on down to Dayton for the Cardinals. There is the West Side kids coming in to warm up. Once again, just like their JV, they are in maroon with gray or silver numbers. It's kind of like yellow or gold. It's silver, and then they have black trunks. Soda down here, they have white jerseys tonight or black numbers trimmed in red, and they also have black shorts. So we are just over 15 minutes away. Soda comes into the ninth in the district 2-3. They are 7-6-6 ties on the season. In the conference, they have a win over Declo. And wow, was that a good one last week? They beat the Hornets 3-2 right here in Soda. And then they beat Aberdeen in Aberdeen 3-0. Lost to Milan 0-3. Lost to Westside 1-3. And lost to Declo 1-3. So 2-3 in the conference. On the season, their wins come over Chalice, Aberdeen, Marsh Valley, West J, and Declo. Their losses come against Kellogg, Grace, Butte County, Declo, Westside, and Malad. They have ties with Riley, tied Panthers of West J twice in tournaments, tied Rockland, Teton, and Grace. In the conference, leading the conference are the Malad Dragons. They are 5-0 in the conference, 18-9 on the season. In second place is Westside. They are 4-2, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, their 2 losses came against Malad. They are 13-10 on the season. Declo is third at 3-3 in the conference. They are 9-8 on the season. Then it's Wendell. Lady Trojans are 2-2 in the conference. They're 10-9 on in the season. The Cardinals, they are fifth with a 2-3 conference record, 7 wins, 6 losses, and 6 ties overall in the season. Aberdeen, Lady Tigers are 0-6 uh, on in the conference, and they are 1-19 with 1 tie overall. So I'm multitasking. That's a multitasking in Spanish. Um, I think I speak almost as much Spanish lately as I'm speaking English. Sometimes I get it mixed up. Today, of course, the Lady Pirates of Westside are here. Next Tuesday, Lady Cards travel to Grace We had a barn burner here against Grace a couple of weeks ago. And then Cards traveled to Malad on Thursday. So Grace on Tuesday. I will be at Malad on October 9th. And then Aberdeen will finish the regular season Wednesday, October 15th. The Lady Pirates, again, they come in 4-2 in the conference, 13-10 overall. They have wins in the conference over Soda, Aberdeen, Wendell, and Declo. They lost to Malad twice, 1-3 and 0-3. Overall, their wins come over Jackson. It's not Jackson. Oh, I've done games in Wyoming. It's Jackson, Wyoming, the Bronx. So they beat the Bronx. They beat Kimmer, the Rangers, beat Grace, beat Aberdeen, Teton, Grace again, Salmon, Soda, Wendell, Declo, North Fremont, and Chalice. Their losses came to Grace. The Grizz beat them, so they split with Grace. They beat Preston, Lyman, Wyoming, um, Colville, Wyoming beat them. Take that back. I'm doing their losses. They lost to Lyman. Let me start again. They lost to Grace, Preston, Lyman, Cokeville. Those little rascal Panthers down there in Cokeville, they're pretty tough. I've been there. I know their volleyball team has won 25, count them, state championships. Their football team right behind them with 23 state championships. So Cookville, a lot of tradition there. Uh, Pirates lost to Butte County first, Malad twice. Lost to Butte County, the Pirates twice. Uh, Malad twice, and they lost to Jackson. And so they split with Jackson. Uh, Let me find the rankings. I actually did find those, but I was looking for today's rankings to come out, and I waited, and they normally come out on Wednesday. Um, but this is actually last week, but I doubt there's no change. In our division in the 3A, the number one ranked volleyball team in the state is Ambrose, the Archers. Then it's the Mustangs of Melba. They are ranked number two. Malad from our conference is ranked number three. Kellogg, in fact, Kellogg dropped down this year. They were a 4A. They're ranked number four. And Nampa Christian, the Trojans, they are ranked number five. Picking up votes is Priest River, St. Mary's, New Plymouth, Parma, Declo, Grangeville, these Westside Pirates, and Orofino. We are just about 10 minutes away. Westside has the whole court right now. Whisper in my ear, remind me to move the camera. It doesn't matter. Westside's on both sides of the court. And your 6A's that goes number one is Rigby, two is Madison, three is Skyview, four is Rocky Mountain, and five is Owyhee. Votes for in the 6A's, Timberline and Coeur d'Alene. In the 5A's, Idaho, this is all southeast Idaho in the 5A's. Tigers of Idaho Falls, they are number one. Shelley Russets and Pocatello, what did they change their names to? The Thunder, something like that. Um, I don't remember because they changed their name. Um, Used to be the Indians. And so two is Shelley and Pokey, four is Hillcrest, five is Middleton. Picking up votes in the 5A's is Twin Falls, Lakeland, Minico, Wood River, Bonneville, Columbia, Century, and Sandpoint. In the 4A's, Coal Valley Christian, who used to be a 3A, they are ranked number one. Bear Lake, I'm sure the Wells gal is one of the reasons Bear Lake is ranked number two. She is so tough and 6 foot one ish, I believe. That's that's Coach Wells' daughter down there in Montpelier. Number three is Kimberly. Four is Snake. Five is McCall Donnelly. Picking up votes, Weezer, Fruitland, Emmett, and Preston. In the 2As, Butte County, the Pirates are ranked number one. Troy is second. Hagerman is three. Number four is Grace. And then there's a tie for fifth, Potlatch and Valley. Picking up votes in the 2As, Oakley, Murtaugh, and Kamei. In the 1As, number one ranked 1A team, volleyball, is Horseshoe Bend. Rockland, not too far away, over by American Falls, is ranked number two. Mackey, that's also not too far away, just a little ways from Arco, from Butte County. They're three. Salmon River is ranked number four. Council is number five. And picking up votes in the 1As is Ledore, Genesee, Grace Lutheran, and Northsham. How about those Cowboys? And you don't call them lady cowboys, they are cowboys. Football, once again, Soda is at Westside, and that's Friday. And then the following Friday, October 10th, Declo will be in Soda. Let's see what we got here. Soda is at the net. Let me find the net for you. There we go. Sometimes it just varies. Nobody is shagging balls for Soda. Sometimes the other team will actually shag for you while you do spikes and stuff at the net. Now there's a couple of West Side kids that go back to shag for the cards. Um, October 17th, the football team was scheduled to play the Wendell Trojans, and they canceled their season. And so we had a couple of open spots. Star Valley filled one of those. That was a fun game. Great Braves team from Afton. Bear Lake is going to come up. And Bear Lake right now, I think they are 0-5. And so they replace Wendell. And then October 24th to finish the season for football, Aberdeen Tigers. Maybe they got a pretty good team. Aberdeen will be at Soda. Last Friday, this is football. Malad defeated Soda. I thought Soda had some opportunities in that game. Had an interception that coulda, woulda, shoulda, and then a great run by Cole Garbett. Yeah, he's down the sideline, and Malad punched it out. And I don't think I've ever seen in my life, and I've done this for 45 years. Don't know how much I've seen on television or live without a headset on, but that was just like a greased pig. I think everybody from both teams had a hold of that. And then finally, Malad came up with it. So 21-6, Dragons beat the Cardinals. It was West J over Grainville, 34-6. Grace got their first loss, now 5-1. They lost to Adrian, Oregon, 54-24. Snake beat Teton in a close one, 27-26. Highland beat Pokey, 32-7. North Fremont beat Salmon, 47-0. Rich, Utah Rebels from Randolph defeated Bear Lake 34-21. Westside beat Declo 20-8. It was Ryrie over Firth 45-18. American Falls beat South Fremont 34-6. Rigby beat Lewiston 46-0. It was Blackford over Bonneville, the Bees. Broncos beat Bonneville 40-22. Skyline beat Idaho Falls 55-0. Madison beat Thunder Ridge 44-14. And so that is your football news. We're about 3 minutes away from the national anthem and the starting lineups. Football going on. Number 23 BYU. They are 4-0. They beat Colorado last Saturday, 24-21. I don't know whether you caught that or not. I really caught it all over the place. Colorado was fined $50,000 and had to apologize to the Cougars for things that their fans. It, it's it's happened way before against BYU. Saw an Arizona basketball game, same thing, and I don't know why you just can't watch a game without all that stuff. BYU was behind in that game by 14. Then they came back and won it 24-21. West Virginia, the Mountaineers will be at Lavelle Edwards Stadium. That'll be Friday. Normally, um, on conference, LDS conference weekend, we've always played Utah State. I say we because, whoops, there's a ball. I grew up about 10 miles from Lavelle Edwards Stadium. And yeah, my kids went to Utah, so I'm kind of right between there. And of course, they all grew up in St. George. All my kids went to high school in St. George. And so before the LDS conference, always been Utah State. And since the Big 12, they haven't played the Aggies since September 29th in 2022. BYU won that game 31-20 over Utah State. Boise State are 3-1. They beat Appalachian State 47-14 last Saturday. This Saturday at 1:30, the Broncos will face the Irish of Notre Dame in South Bend. So that'll be kind of fun. Notre Dame starting to pick it up after a couple of losses. The Broncos beat Air Force 49-37 last week. Next week, New Mexico, say my Lobos, done games there at UNM. New Mexico will be at Boise. And then October 18th, UNLV will be at Boise. Utah State comes in 4-1. They lost to Vanderbilt last week. Commodores, what were they ranked? Like 13th, something like that. Aggies have a bye this week. They're at Hawaii next week. Then San Jose State. The Spartans will be at Utah State Friday, October 17th. Idaho, 2-3. They also have a bye this week. They lost to Montana last week, 41-40. Northern Colorado will be in Moscow next week from Saturday. Idaho State, 2-2. They had a win over Northern Colorado. I was trying to think if that was in Greeley or in Pocatello. 26-18, the Bengals won. Let's see if we can pick up the PA announcer. So let me take my headset off and I'll point that out. Greg Robinson on the mic. I'm going to take my hat off. Here I've got a couple of folks texting me back. Even got a friend in Grand Island, Nebraska. I have a couple in Peru that listen. Helps their English. There's a flag dropping out of the northwest corner. Cards on the north line and pirates on the south line. We'll have a national anthem. Well, that's cool. That was awesome. I don't know, that was a JV and the cheerleaders, the bunch of gals. They did a great job. Good for them. Good for them. Got a few smiles. Hey, get Pat back on. Let's see if we can pick up Craig Robinson. And then we get my yellow marker. Got Owen Miller. Miley Kundick, number 5. Allie Henderson for the Pirates. Miley Bingham, number 7. Olivia Gailey. Anna Marciel Wynett. And Tess Ward, number 31. There are your Pirates. A lot of common names. Jaden Parker gets a start tonight. Josie Tingy gets a start. Presley Camp and normally Vetter will come in on as the libero and replace Camp. Anna Davis, number 10. Party Green, number 11. And number 14, Kel Hopkins. Tara Vetter will be the libero or the libero, if you prefer. Referees tonight in bright pink, or you call that chartreuse, which is to recognize breast cancer. Both teams will shake hands underneath the net. Pirates in maroon, soda in white. And the Pirates, second place, 4-2 in the conference. And they picked up votes in the 3A rankings, not in the top 5. Their 2 losses came to Milan. We are ready to go. Not sure who won the toss. Toss is mainly to see who's going to serve. They always take the side when they advance. good receiver, just a junior. 20-16, Soda leads by 4. Set point is it by